Anker, Suffolk County Legislator for the 6th District. I'm here today with some very special guests. I have Priscilla Arena. She's the co-founder and executive director of SASSY. Now this is Suffolk Asperger's Autism Support and Information. And also I have Stephanie Mendelson. She is the co-founder and president of SASSY. Can you explain to me, what is SASSY?
What is it?
Sure. You said it well, and it's hard to say. Suffolk Asperger's and Autism Support and Information. SASSY is a group that is put together to help special needs families on Long Island, targeting mostly parents of children on the autism spectrum. We started when Priscilla and I met through a business meeting and happened to find out that our children had the same diagnosis of Asperger's syndrome. We realized there really wasn't anything in Suffolk County as far as resources are concerned for parents to go to when they get that diagnosis. A lot of the resources are in Nassau County, and being the busy moms that we are, it's very difficult to travel back and forth. So we said we should put together a support group, and we posted it on Facebook. We got a coffee cake and some coffee, and we sat and said, is anybody going to show up? And we had about a dozen moms that first night just from one Facebook posting. Since then, and it's been less than a year, we have over 400 families that have joined. So I think that's just indicative of the need for a resource out in Suffolk County.
Absolutely. And Priscilla, you were in my office in December, and you know, your son has autism, Asperger's syndrome.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And you were saying to me, you know, Sarah, where are places to go for our kids to socialize, to get out? And you're the type of person, when you can't find what you need, you make it happen, and you've actually made this happen, you and Stephanie. So tell me a little bit more about what inspired you to create this organization.
Well, clearly us connecting together and finding that, say, hey, do you know a camp that can be a good camp for my son or your son? And we kept finding roadblock after roadblock after roadblock. And when I went to reach out to other organizations, I found that they were not specific to the autism community. They kind of shared the umbrella of all disabilities. And so I felt that autism has specific needs, okay, that they needs to be served, okay? I call autism, quite frankly, the invisible disability, because it is not seen with the naked eye. When you see a child in a wheelchair or with Down syndrome, you know that that child has a disability. With autism, it's a whole different ballgame. So after speaking with you and your great advice, telling me you have a lot on your plate, Priscilla, but this is a whole other world and business, I said, okay. So I tried to go the easier route, but that didn't happen. And quite frankly, I've been very, very fortunate in the fact that I'm able to meet so many people within our community and surrounding communities that I felt were great connections to help us facilitate the programs and things that we need to go forward.
Yeah. Now, what is autism? I know a lot of people are you know, have different explanations. Now there are many comorbid diagnoses that go along with autism. Correct. Can you give us a little bit more information?
Sure. Autism is a neurodevelopmental disorder characterized by social impairments, verbal and nonverbal, and restrictive and repetitive behavior. Okay. That is what I term as the tree, if you will, of autism. The tree of autism also has many branches of what you were relating to as comorbids, which would be things like OCD, obsessive compulsive disorders, ADHD, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder,
Anxiety.
Anxiety.
Is also huge
Anxiety.
comorbid. A lot of children with autism have anxiety as part of what they have to deal with out in the community, can also kind of reinforce their anxious feelings, so that often goes along with autism.
And have you seen an increase? I mean, I have 3 children, 15, 20, and 24, and 2 have severe food allergies. And relating to disabilities,
yes,
my son was the first to self-carry when he was in kindergarten, or elementary, because he always had to have his EpiPen.
yep.
And he was the first. Now in Mount Sinai, there's probably about 60.
Yes.
So with autism or Asperger's syndrome,
Yes.
has there been an increase?
Tremendous,
It's
tremendous.
about 1 in 60, they're saying right now,
Yep.
have some sort of diagnosis under the spectrum of autism. And it's important when you hear the word spectrum is
Yeah.
used a lot. Autism can be very mild. We have high functioning autistics who generally have maybe a higher IQ and may be held back by things like fine motor delays, anxiety, speech delays. The key is early intervention. The earlier that a parent can recognize that something's going on and get treatment and help for those issues, the better the long-term prognosis will be for that child. So that's another thing we're trying to address, is when parents suspect something is wrong, either their pediatrician tells them they're not meeting their milestones, where do I go and where do I start? We want to be that resource they reach out to
Right.
guide them.
What are some of those things that may?
The signs,
Yeah,
the signs, if
yeah.
you will. We were actually just discussing it this morning, sort of going over the list. When they're very young, I would say, when I say young, I say probably prior to the age of, let's say, 2. There could be small things like not responding to their name being called. They tend to look not directly at you, but possibly in another direction. Smiling back at you, which is indicative of not being able to read other people's emotions, which is something that autism children deal with. I would say also the delayed language. So for example, mama, papa, mama, dada, okay? A lot of times you'll, let's say your child is 1.5 years, 2 years old, and they're not even saying those things. So it's a delayed language thing.
Also sensory issues
Yes,
can be
yes.
big for us. My son especially, his 2 main things were anxiety and sensory issues. Taking him to places with a lot of noise, crowds, he would become extremely anxious. He would be putting his hands over his ears. It was very uncomfortable for him. And we saw his anxiety from a very young age and thought to ourselves, it's just not the normal amount of anxiety for a child. There's something else going on.
Shy, hiding behind your leg, not wanting to interact or mingle with other children or peers their own age. The other thing is that I remember very succinctly, because my son could not communicate in any way or capacity, even down to if you asked him, point to the milk or point to the bottle, he could not follow those directions. And he would become very, very frustrated and angry and start hurting himself or hitting his head against the wall or himself in the head with whatever object he had in his hands. Those were signs, as I reflect back, that were indicative of what was to come.
Right. When did you find out that your son was autistic?
Okay, well, the irony of it is as a mother, and I always say this to people, listen to that little voice inside you, that gut instinct. I knew definitely by the age of approximately 15 months that something was not right. Yes, of course, I went over those things with the pediatrician, but, I would get the normal, well, he's a boy and not a girl, so maybe, it's a little bit, it takes boys a little bit longer to get to those milestones. And then as we sort of progressed by the age of 18 months, I had gotten a speech therapist to come in and work with him, and an occupational therapist. And even they didn't give me a real clear direction as to what it might be, but they had me going down a different path. So,
Right.
for example, they had me thinking it was an auditory processing delay, in which they told me I wasn't able to get a formal diagnosis till the age of 6. So in the autism world, you definitely need that formal diagnosis. It's going to help you in the planning and getting the services and everything that you need for your child. I didn't get that until the age of 6, and it is also very classic that you have to wait probably between 4 to 6 months on average to even get that appointment with either a developmental pediatrician or a neurologist.
Who specializes in
Right.
pediatric.
Wow, are there more doctors focusing on autism and understanding it? Because even, I'll be speaking to a lovely young woman, Skylar. She's a Girl Scout. She's creating these wonderful programs for kids with autism. But she did not get a formal diagnosis until she was 9 years old.
Which is actually
years.
very late
Late.
in the scheme of.
Very late.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And all that frustration, and can you imagine what she went through, what her parents and her
Right.
family went through? So it's very important to get the right medical evaluation. And how do you go about doing that?
I know in my case, originally, my son was very young as well, before the age of 2, knowing something was wrong. We initially called the county, Suffolk County, and had him evaluated through the county.
Yes.
Basically, they diagnosed him as having some sort of anxiety disorder. It's very hard to diagnose them when they're that young because they're not speaking, and it's much harder to pinpoint what's going on. But as we approached school age, at 3.5 we started getting him occupational therapy and those types of things also through the county. Once they are at that point, you really need to call a developmental pediatrician or a neurologist and have a formal neuropsychiatric assessment done. Those types of assessments will really try to hone in on the specific problem. Because once they enter the school system at age 5, it opens up a whole new set of issues with helping them navigate in school and get the help and support that they need, which is key to them succeeding.
Right. I'm just curious, again, we spoke about the increase. We definitely see an increase in autism in children. What do you think is causing it? It's a big mystery. I mean, the
Oh,
food allergies
absolutely,
have different-
absolutely.
I think it's personally,
Yes.
my brother actually works for the Simons
Sorry.
Foundation, which is the world's leading researcher on autism. And they found some genetic components. I believe it's developmental, so there's a genetic component, and then certain things can be triggers, environmental things can be triggers as well. But it's definitely something that happens genetically during the development of, a fetus.
Yeah.
Wow. Your
Yes.
thoughts on that?
No, totally agree. I mean, the increase, what I really also think is that autism really wasn't recognized in terms
right.
of the medical arena
Mhm.
until the early 90s. So we are,
That long,
Yes.
that's amazing.
they
Sad.
originally thought that those children, they were formally assessed with schizophrenia.
Right.
Oh.
So unfortunately, I mean, we have come a long way in the fact that, our children are at home with us, and we're becoming a little bit more understood in terms of the world of autism. But I sometimes think to myself, what if I had my child in the 60s or 70s? He would have probably been assigned to some form of a home,
Right.
and that would have been the solution, which obviously we know today, we can certainly make a lot of progress.
The goal is to integrate them into the community, have them be productive, which is what they want.
And thank goodness for people like yourselves, advocates, getting that information out there, raising the bar of awareness, and I just can't believe that it's only been since 1990, really addressing and focusing on this. And I think we need to continue to push that bar. And I know you ladies are doing that. Tell me a little bit about the fundraisers and some of the events that you guys are having, to increase awareness and increase the ability for people to find the resources that they're in desperate need for.
Yeah.
We run support groups, which is how we started.
Where in a library, right?
We started initially, well, first we used our homes,
Yes.
which got a little
Around the
crowded,
dining
which
table.
was
Got a little
good.
Yeah.
Then we were getting places like Panera and local places that would donate a little space to us. We've sort of outgrown that as well.
Yes.
Now Mather Hospital, thankfully, has volunteered conference rooms for us, so that's where we're holding our meetings now. We also do sibling support groups because those children are often forgotten. All the attention is focused on the child with autism, and then the other children kind of are left to the side a little bit.
I will say one thing, it is quite eye-opening with how mature they actually become through the process of having a sibling. One of the things, because my daughter's slightly older than my son, I thought to myself, well, how does she handle friends not understanding her brother? And I know that at different times she said to me, I wish my brother was just normal. So clearly that has, emotional impacts on her.
It's the whole family.
It's the
Anything-
whole
any-
family.
Any type of illness, whether, we're dealing with
Correct.
the drug addiction illness, any kids with disabilities.
Yes.
It affects the entire family, and I'm so
course.
glad that you guys are not excluding that, because that is such an important factor.
Some of the social events, and really the reason for the social events is because we have found over and over and over and over again that just as though the children of autism feel alienated, isolated, and alone, so do those parents. And what happens is they retreat and they never venture out for fear of being judged by other typical parents with typical children for their children's behaviors. So we create an environment
We
in
call it our
SASSY,
judgment-free zone.
a judgment-free
Nobody
zone.
judges when we
Nobody
have these
judges.
events, what anybody's child is doing.
Don't you wish we could all do that?
I'd like the world to be a
everywhere?
judgment-free
No
zone, but,
judgment,
yeah,
and,
that would be
and
great.
just
That's-
acceptance.
right.
Yes.
Everyone, even when people are, cranky or whatever,
Yes.
there's probably a reason.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And you just have to deal with it and tolerate it. But kids and folks with autism, there's a very important reason. It's the cognitive ability or
Yes.
or not being able to deal with certain social situations.
They have a lot of meltdowns too.
And yeah.
So what happens is you'll see another parent, let's say your child with autism has a meltdown. And when I say a meltdown, it could be a full-blown meltdown. I always sort of revert back to this story, which is there's a few key things within, I think, a parent who has a child with autism that they sort of are embedded in their brain forever. In my case, one of those situations, I was on a Disney cruise, and my son, one of the things that they do is they persever on things, so my son would ask every day, 11 to 15 times a day for a year and a half, what do you want for your birthday? That's what he wanted. So I, shopped and I saved my money and I wanted to give him the one thing that he wanted. And while we were on that Disney cruise, although Disney was absolutely fabulous, I did not want him wearing the same shirt to dinner because, again, with the repetitious behavior. It was an evening when we were sitting with another couple and they were in tuxedos and my son was in the same shirt for 4 days. So I tried to combat that and it turned into and escalated into something that I truly felt that security was going to be called down, all because I just wanted to have him change his shirt. And then at that point, after 45 minutes, and I start to cry and everything, he looked up at me and I grabbed him by his shoulders and I said, Johnny, you have to stop this. And he looked up at me and he said, Mama, I don't know how to stop. I just got goosebumps.
It just happens.
It sticks with you forever. And it's moments and things like that that you realize, you have to be more patient and more accepting and more what have you, but.
There may be, when you see things like that, there may be a real reason behind it
Yes.
that's not understood.
Absolutely.
I think every mother that comes to our support group meeting, first of all, there's a lot of head nodding.
Yes.
When everybody speaks about their situation, everybody else is
And
that.
it's probably a sense of relief.
Absolutely.
Yes.
A sense of, oh my gosh, it's not just me.
They're going
Yes.
through the same thing,
Exactly.
and every mother that comes in says, I am so glad I found you, because it's an outlet
Right.
for us all
But
to save on
Absolutely.
therapy bills. and
Right,
get it
Yes.
all
right.
out.
But those social events are key and critical, because otherwise they would not, people tend to give up after a while until they find us and they understand that there is a place that they can come together. And one of the many special things that we do, and something we're going to implement, is monthly birthday parties. And I know that sounds a little crazy, but there's been so many posts about children having birthday parties or graduation parties.
And nobody comes.
And absolutely
Right,
nobody
by
comes.
themselves.
Somebody literally on Friday at our support group meeting had a niece who's on the spectrum, high functioning. She invited 60 plus people. Not one person responded, and her parents had to cancel her graduation party. So we never want that to happen to our
Right.
children. We want them to be able to experience what a real birthday party is like, and be able to have a friend. And if you look and if you put an autistic child with maybe somebody else that they can relate to, then all of a sudden they don't become so different.
Right, right.
Which, you know, I think that one of the comorbids, because there's a whole laundry list of them, is depression. And the depression is definitely more geared towards the higher functioning, because they usually tend to have an average or above average IQ intelligence, but they are very much aware that they are different, and most times are bullied in school, and so they feel, again, alienated, isolated, and alone. And one of the staggering statistics in the autism community is that they are at minimum 6 to 7 times more likely during teen years to attempt suicide and idealize suicidal thoughts. Those same children, if they are a minority and in a lower socioeconomic arena, they become up to 28 times more likely. So, you know, these are alarming statistics, and again, just one of the many comorbids that falls under the autism tree, as I call it.
Right. Now, say there's folks out there watching this show right now. Where can they go to find information about your organization?
Well, we're on Facebook, which is, you know, been a huge platform for us.
What's the name? It'd be your.
It would be Suffolk Asperger / Autism Support and Information.
They can go to facebook.com/groups/SASSY Long Island.
Okay.
They can also more easily maybe connect to our Facebook page, which is sassiny.org, SASSINY.org.
The website, yeah.
And on the website, it says join us. You can click right on there and it'll pull you right to the Facebook
Yes.
page.
And we'll display that, you know, maybe at the bottom of the screen, so you, our audience will have that information available. Or they could call my office, 631. Remember, area code first,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
854-1600. I want to thank you so much
you.
for coming by
Thank you.
and coming to my office. This is our first a show, and I've been meaning to do this for quite some time, and you ladies here are a perfect first time guests, and I can't wait to continue to find out and learn more about what you're doing. I will be posting what you know, your upcoming events.
And to become a member is easy. We don't
free.
charge membership fees. Everything is free. Just go to the website. We will get you a membership card and you can get into all our events.
Wonderful.
Yes.
Oh, there's so many, and again, a lot of folks out there probably have no idea that these resources are available.
Right.
So I want to thank you again.
Thank
you.
you very much.
Looking forward to working with you, and again, it's an honor to have you here today.
Thank you.
So,
It's an honor to be here.
Appreciate it.
thank you. Hi, I'm Sarah Anker, Suffolk County Legislator. I have a very special guest here today, Skylar Intravia, and she is here. She's going to discuss her experiences dealing with a somewhat challenging situation, autism, and specifically Asperger's syndrome. So welcome today, and again, I have to say I was so impressed. I was at your Gold Award ceremony for your Girl Scout Troop 2945, that's located in Rocky Point, and what a beautiful ceremony. And I have to tell you again how impressed I was at the projects that you have been working on pertaining to autism and helping kids overcome the challenges of having the disability. And it actually can almost be a situation where it helps people to excel. And I see that happening with you. So tell me a little bit about your Gold Award project.
For my Gold Award project, I decided that I would like to start a recreational night for kids on the autism spectrum, which really focused on the middle school and high school students in general. And so what I did was I started that to help build social skills in the kids. I helped them build social skills and get to know each other and just really hang out.
Yeah, you know, it's hard though because a lot of the kids with autism, they don't like to socialize, you know, and they keep, you know, more to themselves. But I think they want to. They would like to, perhaps. Is that what are your thoughts on that?
I know me personally, I want to fit in, but like obviously I have some quirks about it, so like really I don't understand a lot of sarcasm. I'm starting to get there. I don't socialize that well usually, but like I'm getting there too. Like I've definitely improved from where I was, but like it's still a little difficult for me. I'm still like a little too loud usually, and sometimes I like talk when I'm not supposed to. Like it's.
When were you diagnosed, and how did you cope with that?
I was diagnosed when I was 9 years old, which was like entering 5th grade, and part of Asperger's syndrome, like usually most of the time everyone with like Asperger's usually has a focus point, like that they are like obsessed with really. Like I know sometimes they have more than one, like me, like dogs definitely, but my other one is books. And when I was younger, I used to like drag my parents to the library, like as often as possible. I came home with like a book stack taller than me, like, and I'd be finished by like the time they were due. And so Mom was like, oh, this is what you have, this is what it is. And I was like, no, I don't want to listen to you. I want to go to the library and I want to read every single book. So I dragged her there, and I got every single book that had to do with Asperger's or autism in general. And I like sat down and I just read all of them, and I was like, okay, this is what I have, this is what it does, this is what happens, like this is how it affects me, okay. And it's like then I was able to like, okay, this is what I need to work on here. And so I like had an idea of what was happening before like pretty fast.
That's amazing. And I remember at the ceremony there was a teacher
Yeah.
that really helped you overcome some of your challenges. You want to talk a little bit about the
That
teacher?
was Mr. Yashowitz. Yeah, he's so sweet. I love him. He's like the best teacher. He's a 3rd grade teacher now, but when I was there, he was my 5th grade teacher, and he does all these like projects like he was talking about. He does this project where he like takes all the different disabilities and like problems really, and he gave me the one on autism. And so I got to go even like deeper, and like I was able to present it and like, hey, this is me. Like, so I got even more information from like online databases and stuff. So that's pretty cool.
So he inspired you to really search other aspects of autism and really get to understand how this type of situation affects you and also affects other people. And I guess you realized there needed to be more for those people that are dealing with autism and Asperger's syndrome.
Yeah, it was pretty cool because at one point in the year when I was like, okay, I don't care who knows, whatever. Like, he let me bring in my therapist at the time, and so I was able to actually like present to the class, hey, this is what I have too. This is what's wrong with me, this is how it affects me. Like, basically now I'm just taking the project and putting it, this is me. It's
Right.
not just a thing, like I have it too.
And so as far as, who inspired you? So your friends, your teachers, your family, to work on this project? And this project, by the way, it was a recreational night at the Rocky Point School? Is that
Not at the school, it ended up being all over the place, like.
Oh, okay, so it was
So-
different activities,
Yeah, it
different
started at North
locations.
Shore, and then we moved to like field trips, like we went to laser tag, we went to Creative Zone. It was Miss Denise Valvo who actually helped the most, like form the idea, because she actually told me there are so many more kids with autism in the high school and middle school alone. Like there were over 50 kids when, like, because I had to envelope all the letters, because she was like, okay, I'm not doing this alone, it's your project, you're helping me. And so I had to help her, like, use all the, like, I typed up the letter, she went over it, we edited it like a billion times, and then when it was like perfect, we folded it up and put it in envelopes and sent them out, and there were like 50 of them throughout the high school and middle school.
I mean, did you see a change in how they're interacting with people? Are they less afraid to go out now that they know they have a special night that they can go and meet kids that may have similar challenges?
They're like always, they always have like so much fun when they're there. And actually, when I was still in high school, because I graduated now, like every single day I'd have at least one of them come up, when's the next meeting? When's the next meeting? And their parents would like talk to me like this is like their favorite night of the week or their favorite time. They love it so much. And it's like so awesome that like, and they have been getting better at social skills. Like I can tell, like
You can tell.
the way they first started, I was like, guys, we're working this way, we're not doing that, we're doing this, okay, focus here. And now I don't really need to tell them that anymore. They're kind of just there.
So it's like you're doing a type of therapy, but more, you know, in a voluntary type of situation.
Yeah.
And, you know, bringing people together so they can understand themselves, but also understand other people. And, you know, I really appreciate your community outreach. There's not a lot of folks that will volunteer their own personal time to create this type of situation. And I know we're going to try to see if we can help you. What area do you have these recreational nights? Is it just the Rocky Point, or does it extend in other towns?
Like I said, we started there, but now we're like hanging out in Creative Zone over here in Rocky Point. It's on Broadway. And so we just like go in there and we just hang out. We do what I planned for the night. Like the last time we were there, we were doing those beads where you like iron them and they like come out.
Oh, those things. I love that.
I love them.
Those are
It's so cool because like I can just be like, I want to go to laser tag tonight, guys. Who wants to go to laser tag? And they'll be like, yeah, let's go.
Wow.
It's really fun.
So do you have a few words you'd like to say to inspire kids to overcome maybe some of their challenges that like you have yourself?
Really, just go out and do what you're scared of, or like just go do what you want to do. Like I had to put in 80 hours to get this done, and I had such a short timeline.
And it's been a very positive experience, I'm sure. You know, the smiles, the laughter, the interaction. You know, it's a challenge for folks with autism. And, you know, I would think, you know, folks feel alone, they feel discouraged. But you've provided an opportunity and allowed them to overcome it. And so they'll always have those memories their entire life. So I think you've accomplished your goal. I will vouch to the Girl Scouts that you have.
Two more things. Listen
Oh.
to your mom.
Yeah.
Always.
Listen to
Always.
listen to your mom. I like that. I love that.
Because my mom, Jen in Trevia, she like definitely helped me because I was about to give up like mid-April, like just before the deadline, because I had no idea what I was going to do, and she kept yelling at me, dude, get this done. And like without her I probably wouldn't have finished this and done all the things I was able to do because of it.
So tell us about your future. Where are you going to college, and what will you be majoring in?
I'm going to St. Francis College. It's in Brooklyn, like I said, and I'll be majoring in criminal justice, and I'm hopefully going to become a criminal defense lawyer
Excellent.
in Brooklyn,
Mhm,
like
mhm.
New York City, just in a city.
There's so much opportunity in the city. And again, Skylar, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you here in my office. I can't wait to see what your future is going to bring to you. I want you to know that I'm here for you. I have folks that I'm going to introduce you to see if we can continue your amazing idea of inspiring others to overcome challenges and go after their dreams. It may seem difficult, especially when there are certain disabilities, but sometimes I see it almost as like a rubber band. You know, they're being pulled back by disabilities, but when the timing happens and they let go of their fears, it propels them to amazing accomplishments. And I feel very strongly that you will be doing some amazing things in the future. You're doing amazing things now, and I do want to thank you very much for everything that you've done for our community.